at the end of this past June, that's June 2019, since you may be watching this several years down the road, Netflix re-released Neon Genesis Evangelion after years of it being out of print, though still available on DVD at increasingly exorbitant prices, and there has been a lot of discourse about the series in the wake of it. It's being discussed on podcasts from Waypoint and other places, even getting a mention on NPR's big pop culture podcast, Pop Culture Happy Hour. And there's been discourse over everything from, and well, also controversy over everything from the new translation to complaints about Fly Me to the Moon being omitted from the closing credits. However, there have also been a lot of new fans being brought to the series, and in some cases to anime in general. And it is to those new fans to whom this video is intended, in the form of a list of recommendations, because there is nothing geekier than finding a friend who has discovered the thing you like, in some cases just recently, and coming over with an armful of new stuff to share. So, we're rolling Cinefix style. Here are my recommendations for 5 anime to watch once you finished watching Neon Genesis Evangelion. Now, if you haven't finished watching EVA yet and you're watching this, fear not, I am holding off on the EVA spoilers. We can go with Anno's previous mecha series, Gunbuster. For my second pick, I'm going with works that cover similar themes to Evangelion. Science fiction and fantasy series that get all serious and introspective and get into themes of social isolation and paranoia. This includes series like Satoshi Kon's show's Paranoia Agent and the film Perfect Blue, OVA series like Key the Metal Idol, and gritty novel and manga adaptations like Welcome to the NHK. But for here, I'm going with Serial Experiments Lagann. Lagann is a very introspective, dense, and philosophical series about the internet and how we interact with it. Though admittedly, it's one that was made in the late 90s, so keep that into consideration when it comes to observations that other people have made since then. It's also a very dark series, which opens with a character we've yet to really meet committing suicide and leading our title character into an investigation as to why they killed themselves, and getting to know that character better through that process. But it does mean that the series opens with a character committing suicide, if that is something that is a problem for you. Again, this being a show from the late 90s, some of the observations the show makes about the internet have become somewhat well established, but still need to see them presented in this manner. We're talking concepts about how we present a different version of ourselves as our online persona, one which can feel like a more exaggerated version of ourselves, but which still represents parts of us, even if they're parts that we would never admit to or acknowledge in public. It gets into online bullying and how it can and does have real-world consequences. It also gets into how, as far as the internet is concerned, once information gets out, it never really gets lost, though it can be made harder to find. Lagann is currently available for streaming on Funimation, and is currently available on DVD and Blu-ray from Amazon and Right Stuff. Next, we're getting into inspirations. Evangelion is often described as being a deconstruction, and thus in turn being heavily inspired by the super robot genre, but it has quite a few other influences as well. From Shinji's personality being inspired by the character of Amuro Ray from Gundam, along with various other elements being taken from tokusatsu series like Ultraman, Gary Anderson's shows like UFO and Captain Scarlet, and of course, well, other super robot anime like Brave Raideen. However, for this pick, I'm going with Evangelion's senpai, Mazinger Z, or Mazinger Z if you're outside the United States, as the rest of those shows, with the exception of Ultraman, aren't anime or haven't been licensed for US release yet. Ultraman's in the weird position of kind of being both, that there's an anime that's a sequel to the original live-action tokusatsu series, but yeah. Anyway, Mazinger Z is the first super robot anime that has robots that are piloted by a person, and it's a very formative work to the genre. While the characters in particular don't map to the main characters from EVA, again, Shinji owes more to Amuro than he does to the protagonist of Mazinger, Koji Kabuto, there are quite a few elements in common, with both shows having humanity besieged by giant monsters, with humanity's only hope being a super robot piloted by the lead and built by the protagonist's father, which he urges him to pilot, and so on. Where things start heavily differing from those inspirations are where some of the deconstructions come in. Again, I'm trying to do this as a spoiler-free episode, so I'm going to leave it at that. Now, as of this recording, Mazinger Z is not yet available for streaming, but it is available on DVD from Amazon and Right Stuff. For my fourth pick, I'm getting into Reconstructions. You've deconstructed your genre, now how do you rebuild it? How do you make a super robot series, just a played straight super robot series with what you've learned and what the audience has grabbed onto after Evangelion? We have, well, a reboot of Mazinger Z, the godfather of them all, with Mazinger Z The Impact, and other versions of classic super robot series founders of the genre getting into the action even before that, with Getter Robo Armageddon. And, for that matter, Giant Robo, Day the Earth Stood Still, rebooting that series, well, the series that we know in the US as Gigantor. And, of course, there are original reconstructions as well, like Godanar. For my pick, I'm sticking with Gainax with Gurren Lagann. Gurren Lagann is an anime series with an enthusiastic protagonist compared to Eva's reluctant hero, and where hot-blooded enthusiasm, like of the kind that drove earlier Super Robot anime, literally drives the Super Robot here. It absolutely fits as sort of Gainax's response to the other deconstructions and reconstructions that came before, in the same way that Kingdom Come was for DC in the wake of all the other responses, both deconstructions and reconstructions, to Watchmen. Gurren Lagann is, as of this recording, available from DVD and Blu-ray from Amazon and Right Stuff, and is also streaming on Netflix and Crunchyroll. So finally, we wrap this up with the question, well, I just want more Eva. What do you have for me? Either more of it, Evangelion, or more like Evangelion. Either way, this is like number 2, but with a more specific focus. This includes shows like Razafon, which already shares some staff with Eva. That's 5, or, if you're going to get really nitpicky about how you count them, a lot more. anime to watch once you finished watching Evangelion and are finding yourself craving more anime. As always, links to everything that I have brought up can be found in the show notes, possibly organized in a more readable and easily viewable fashion on my blog at count0or.com. Now, as always, purchasing anything through those affiliate links helps to support the show. That's anything at all. You could just not buy any of the things I recommend and just find something else that suits your fancy. That's okay too. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the show, please like and subscribe. And also consider backing my Patreon. Patreon backers get episodes up to 1 week early of this show and any future Let's Plays. Also, please consider backing my Ko-fi. Cost me a few bucks, also helps support the show, and it's not a monthly obligation or anything like that.